Hey, if what I'm wearing looks very familiar, part 2 of that question to finish off all the questions from the EPP student that was running the program for a little bit and had some questions. So what we saw here was the very normal curve that we should see with any maximal effort of some kind of cyclic repeat, something very, very continuous. Heart rate goes up, heart rate flattens, heart rate spikes. Remember the question that they were asking, was there a big difference between 90 and 60 and 85, 65? No, there is not. That is an eccentric heart protocol with a good opportunity to bring some more explosive or some more intense types of movement in this to get to these heart rates rather than just hanging out somewhere in here. But then the next question is, what is the primary adaptation if we're doing 5 kettlebell swings every 30 or 60 seconds? This is very, very different. Now let's keep in mind, when you're looking for your max heart rate using this model where maybe somebody's screaming at you and you are dead set into resetting your first beat or whatever your heart rate monitor is, we're going to get all the way to here. You have to be able to answer the question, when you stop, is it because you can't breathe anymore and you're just totally out of gas? Or is it because the relatively worked muscles, if it's your legs on a bike or running or something, you're rowing or ropes, whatever it might be, are those muscles burning? Is that the reason you stopped? Because if you're going to suggest that, I know for me, if I were to go for a run, my calves would feel like they're this big and they're going to explode. That is not a central mechanism. That is not a commentary on what my heart can do, because I have to stop, and now my max heart rate is assumed to be there, and we'll never even know for running if that really is my max heart rate. I have to choose a different activity so that the central mechanisms outlast my peripheral mechanisms. So the economy of the exercise that you're doing has to always be matched up to whatever protocol or adaptation you're after. This is where your functional movement screen can become very, very, very useful. Depending on what you want to take advantage of, your functional movement screen should tell you, well, you might not be able to continue for a very, very long period of time based on that particular movement profile. But you might be able to be explosive. And sometimes the stiffness that you see in a body weight movement appraisal can actually be your friend to increase explosive movements, because the joints can get into the right position. You just have a lot of stiffness if you're moving body weight at a walking level speed to do something like your active straight leg raise or inline lunge. That being said, maybe that's another video. But now, what are we really getting after when you do 5 explosive hinges and then rest for the rest of the minute? That is a very, very effective protocol that you could actually do every single day. Clearly, 5 swings in 30 seconds, a little bit more intense. But now what we are trying to improve is part of the high oxidative function of all type 1 and type 2 fibers. If you use fairly lightweight, and we'll stick with kettlebell swings, where I think there is some, at least anecdotal evidence, that if you're around 25 to 30% of your body weight, you can generate upwards of 3 times your own body weight on a force plate. So if you're a 200-pound person and you're swinging a 50-pound kettlebell, so now we're in that range, you can generate up to 600 pounds of force, okay? So let's say you're at that speed. This is a sprint pace for your kettlebell swings or anything that you're doing. Explosive cyclic repeat for five kettlebell swings. Maybe we can get up to 10 seconds for other types of activities, and then you rest. Now we're in type 2. If we're moving very, very explosively, we're type 2. If we move very, very explosively with relatively light weight, we will probably be creating adaptations relative to the mitochondria in the sarcoplasm, not in the myofibril. That's a different protocol that you'll also find on EPP. Okay, so that's what we're after. Now, are there also central mechanisms that are involved there? Yes, of course. So now I think it's possible that maybe when you get up to 30, 32 minutes of kettlebell swings, 5 every minute, you could potentially be getting your heart rate up, probably somewhere around here. And then you're going to come back down. The protocol, might be, if you are going to use heart rate, Do your 5 as explosively and ruthlessly as possible. There's a series of rules, if you will, to determine when the bell rings. Can you meet the bell? You usually get one chance, but you can do whatever you want. That's just how I would program it. You get one chance to not meet those numbers, and then all of a sudden you're done. That's how you know when you're done. When you can't answer the bell, or something breaks down during the training. You'll be very surprised at how, depending on on where your conditioning is at, you'd be very surprised all of a sudden how technique can become affected, and you're not doing it on purpose, and it's not like you're being reckless, but that is the effect of accumulation of acidosis on spontaneous electrical activity of the working muscles. Are we getting any eccentric heart adaptations? My intuition is probably for somebody who's really, really undertrained, yes. For somebody that shows up to the dance with decent enough eccentric adaptations, no. We are not hanging out in the higher end of that primarily aerobic period. No, we're not there long enough. 5 seconds, 8 seconds, 10 seconds. I do think something different is happening from 4 to 8 and 8 to 12. It's probably the difference between mitochondrial proliferation and the efficiency of the mitochondria to work. Again, there's probably more detail that you can see on EPP on why we would not go longer than 10, 12 seconds. There are maybe some individuals, if you use a highly efficient movement, meaning your FMS gave you a lot of warranty to think that you'll move very, very freely here, and they're very, very skilled at it, such as a rotation with like a rip trainer. You might be able to get up to 15 seconds. For certain sprinters, you might be able to get up to 20 seconds for a maximal effort. But now you got to let it ride down and then go again. Probably not many people can do something 20 seconds maximally explosive, rest 40, and then do it again, and then do it again, and then do it again. Not going to happen. Very, very rarely you're going to get above 10 to 12 seconds. So again, for that person, are you getting the eccentric heart adaptations? No, this is really a peripheral adaptation relative to the mitochondria outside of the muscle fibers. That's where calcium is entering the cell. So with this effort, relax, repeat, effort, relax, the mitochondria is generating ATP relevant to the calcium getting into the cell. That's into the muscle cell. That's where the mitochondria is outside the muscle fibers. This is a little bit different than other protocols that you see where bodybuilders and long distance cyclists come to mind. Big giant lats for swimmers that have long distance. Their mitochondria is being deposited inside the myofibril. That's why they have big hypertrophy, but this is not the same as 5 kettlebell swings on the minute. So the answer to that question, what are we doing? Is it eccentric heart? Maybe, probably not. What is it? It's sarcoplasmic hypertrophy. We are affecting mitochondria in the sarcoplasm relevant to these explosive cyclic repeats. ECR is a big term that we'll use in EPP to describe repeated explosive movements. So hopefully that all makes sense. Sometimes when you shine a light up in that tree and that leprechaun goes away, maybe that's an explosive cyclic repeat. I'm not sure, but if anybody's seen a leprechaun, say yeah.